So now that we have like this like glamorous part of your career that you signed to these amazing agencies like in Europe and you're traveling and you know the magazines and the high fashion brands, even though you're like 5'7".
5'7.5", 5'8" at a push.
Which like technically you're not supposed to be able to do that, but obviously you can.
Right.
I feel like it's very important for people to know more about your backstory. Like, how did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in foster care. I remember one day just calling the police and just screaming on the phone, like, if you don't come and take me from these foster carers, I'm going to die.
How did you end up modeling from that? Like, hi, Danielle. I am so excited for you to be here today. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm happy. How are you?
I'm so happy that you're here. Like, we've been talking about
I'm
this
excited.
for months, right?
It's been a long time. I feel like a year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we first got connected like beginning or mid-pandemic.
Yeah.
Like it was quite a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for photos of models to make a TikTok, and I was looking for one that showed like you need personality, and I have no idea how I ended up in your profile, and you had a picture of you like in the snow with like your arms and your legs. It shows so much personality. I was like, this is perfect. Like, I'm going to use it on my like TikTok, and I posted it, and then like you saw it, and that's how we like.
It was really sweet. When you tagged me in it, I was like, wait, what? Because sometimes I get tagged in things and I'm like, sometimes it's just random art that people just do, and it's really, really nice, and they're not actually a model, they're just appreciating it. So I didn't know what it was going to be. And then when you tagged me and I saw you were a model as well, I was like, wait, this is so interesting, because you don't just post you content, you post for everybody else.
Yeah.
So I loved that. I was like, this girl's amazing.
Aw, you're so sweet. Okay, so like, let's get into it. First of all, I feel like people I feel like we're going to go from like glamour to like real life. So
yes.
To start off, I want to ask you like, okay, so which agencies are you signed to?
So my agency in London, which is where I'm based, is Premier. And then I'm signed with We in Paris, A in Berlin, Scoop in Denmark, Select in Stockholm. And then obviously I have my mother agent who's like London and LA based.
That's amazing. So cool. It's great agencies. I've heard of, I believe, all of them. And how tall are you?
I am 5'7.5", 5'8" at a push.
So you're like kind of like slightly could be considered a petite model, very like in the edge.
Especially for fashion.
Yeah.
I think maybe for commercial and things, like maybe it wouldn't be so petite, but for fashion, I'm definitely not the right height.
So talking about fashion, like, so like if you're 5'7", you're signed to these amazing agencies, like what type of jobs do you do?
So if it's like separate to Runway and just like booked work, it's same as like day-to-day shoots like you'll do. But I would say that most of my work is editorials and magazines. And then I also do brands. Obviously, if I can book campaigns, then that's amazing. Usually it would be like a high fashion brand. So I don't know, I'd be aiming for like a Chanel campaign or like something like that. Is like high fashion campaign. So that's my goals and like aims in that way. So it's those kind of jobs and magazines and working with the correct photographers and stylists, etc. And then obviously I do, you know, like e-com and lookbooks and things. It's mainly that stuff. I've started doing beauty now as well. So I'm doing jewelry and I'm doing obviously a lot of close-up stuff. Yeah. But usually it used to be a lot more fashion and about the clothes and about magazines, but now I'm doing a lot of beauty as well.
Okay, but I need you to drop some names though.
Drop some names, okay. Okay. Well, my first ever shoot was an editorial for Metal magazine, and that was a Dior special, which was incredible because it was my first shoot. So I was really excited with Felicity Ingram, who's like an incredible photographer. And then I guess like to show where my career's gone, I kind of went then to other magazines. I did lookbooks, and then I went to like Stockholm, did H&M campaigns, sports campaigns, Christmas campaigns. this year I've gone towards a bit more runway. So a few weeks ago, I did the Louis Vuitton in-house show, which was in London. So yeah, it's kind of everywhere, but it's exciting. It's like where I really want everything to be.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now that we have like this like glamorous part of your career, that you signed to these amazing agencies like in Europe, and you're traveling and the magazines and the high fashion brands, even though you're like 5'7", which like technically you're not supposed to be able to do that, but obviously you can.
Right.
I feel like it's very important for people to know more about your backstory. Like, how did you grow up?
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, I grew up in foster care. So I was in foster care from the age of 18 months old. And then obviously I left at 18 years old, which is when if you stay in the system, you end up leaving at 18 in the UK anyway. That's what it's like here.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm one of 9. Then my mom had 9 kids, and I'm number 7, lucky number 7.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was all of us. At the time, I was the youngest, and then we were in foster care. My sister was taking care of us, and my mum wasn't. So the school noticed. People got involved. There was like letters to the council of us begging for food. Obviously, I wasn't begging. I was 18 months old, but my siblings were. And then obviously we ended up getting put into the system. My eldest sister went to a friend's mum who took care of her, which was really amazing. And then the rest of us went to different homes. At first, we all went into like a care home together. But then we got separated. So my brother, who's autistic, he went to a home for autism. My other brother, he's on the spectrum, but he's been with the same woman since he was young, which I'm really happy about. 2 of my sisters went together, and then me and my brother went together. So then it was me and my brother in the system together. And we would have contact with my mom and my siblings. And when I was younger, it was more frequent. It was like a few times a week. And then it became like once a month. And then the actual, like, the amount I was able to see my family growing up was 6 times a year. So it wasn't very much at all. And we'd see each other for only a few hours. But as I got older, it was allowed to be more. I was allowed to like go to their houses, which was really exciting. But my sister's houses. But yeah, so we were kind of separated that way, and we kind of just went into like separate lives other than contact. My brother and I were part with really, really terrible people, and then taken from them. I was 3 years old, and put with who I would still to this day consider like my mum and my dad. Put with them, and we had a beautiful life with them. We were with them till we were 10. They were like the world's best parents. They like did everything for us. My foster mum told my boyfriend like that we were really difficult, but they went to therapy in order to help us because they realized they needed more help. And we, as foster kids, were harder than they thought. And they obviously wanted to do the best by us. So even they went to therapy to try and figure it out.
Oh, wow.
It was really amazing. I mean, I didn't know this at the time. I've learned this recently. But they were really good parents. And they, I had loads of cousins, and I had my aunties and my brothers, and you could even tell with the discipline. I never got told off for something my cousin wouldn't get told off for. Do you know what I mean? Like we were part of the family. This was our family, and there's just a normal. I'm very grateful that there was a point in my life where I saw a normal family dynamic, because I don't know I would have known that dynamic existed without it. But then, about 10 years old, we were taken from them. Which was really traumatic. And I'm still not entirely sure the reasons. They don't really tell you much in the social services. They just kind of say, hey, you're not allowed to contact this person anymore. This is your new life. And then you just kind of wake up in a different house. And that's that, really. We were put with this lady for about 3 months because it was over Christmas when we were taken. So they needed to throw us somewhere for a few months. So we went to this lady who, she wasn't really interested that we were there. She kind of just threw us in our rooms and gave us takeaways and just continued her job at home. And On Christmas Day, I remember my parents coming down with like so many presents because it was the first Christmas without them. Mm-hmm. So they bought us kind of everything we'd asked for, which was so not like them. They were very much like, you're not spoiled kids. You'll get presents, but like, you're not getting everything you asked for. Do you know what I mean? And whereas we were both shocked when we received these bags of presents because we could see how much they missed us and wanted to be with us and have all Christmas with us. And when we received these gifts, the lady we were with threw the gifts at us and was like, you're spoiled brats, and like sent us to our room separately. I mean, my brother spent the Christmas Day separate from each other in the same house. Like, it was insanity. And I was like, okay, I'm back in this system.
Oh my God.
And then like people came to see us, and I think now I would describe it as like zoo animals, because like people would come and see us and like talk to us and then like chat with the carer we were with and then leave, and it was like they were coming to see if they wanted us or not. And then one foster couple, they came, and I remember like just being like, okay, what is going on? And they were asking really intrusive questions, so I just remember being like, wait, they're really interested in us and confused. And then like a week later we moved into their house, and so they'd obviously chosen us and decided they liked us. And it was bizarre because my parents are Caribbean, and I grew up with that culture. And then I was put with a white family that didn't really have much of a culture or understand my previous family's culture. So it was literally like one door shut, a complete new world opened. Like nothing, no reminiscent from my past, no conversation about it, no nothing. You know what I mean? Like gone. And then we were with these carers for like quite a few years. We were with them in Birmingham, which is where I grew up. And then the foster father, he's Welsh. And so they wanted to move back to Wales. And they basically gave us an ultimatum and was like, you can either go to new foster carers or you can come with us to Wales. And obviously we were like completely traumatized from being taken from our parents, and like a few years into this and like thinking it's okay at this house, because in the first few years it was. And so we were like, well, obviously we're going to come with you. We're not going to just go to another family. And so we went with them. And then that's kind of when things snapped and they became terrible, terrible people. Like extremely bad. The foster dad wasn't ever physically abusive. And at first he wasn't okay with her being physically abusive. And my brother was taller than her, so she didn't ever put her hands on him. But me, she felt she could intimidate. And she also had MS. And so she had a limp, and she knew that she could get in my face and I wouldn't react because she was ill. And she was aware of this. So she would really hurt me and I would have to deal with it. And, you know, I remember so many times, like, the foster father pulling her off me and telling her, you cannot touch her. You cannot do this. This is not correct. And she'd be screaming all these verbally abusive things. She used to call my mother all these names, my siblings, my old foster carers. She used to tell me that I was every word you don't really want to hear as a kid, especially a child that's like completely innocent and has not doing anything wrong in the world. And you're just being told that you're all of these things. And then it kind of slowly changed from the foster father not allowing her to hit me, to he would still get her off me, but then he would look at me in the eye and say, no one's going to believe you. Like, she didn't do that. She didn't just do that. He'd be still holding her and she'd be screaming at me with her arms clawing at me. And he'd be telling me, no one's going to believe you. This didn't happen. And I was like, okay, so he's not going to protect me anymore. And my brother at this point kind of isolated himself in his room. He would take the dog out. We had a dog. He would take the dog out for walks in the evenings, but that was about it. And then I think, you know, it got to a point, like I tried to report it a good amount of times and I was ignored. And then we'd obviously moved from Birmingham to Wales. And if you move to another country, you move with the social services. The social services that we were with now were the Welsh social services. And I remember specifically the social worker, and his name was Dean. And I remember one day, because he gave me his number and he was like, he knew something was going on. And he was like, if you need to call me, call me. And I remember one night just like, she's there going off, she's screaming. And I just went into my room and I called him and he can hear it. And I'm like, you have to get me out of here. I'm like, I can't be here. She's done this, she's done that, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, like, I'm going to take this seriously. Like, we're going to solve this. And then the next day, I remember the foster mum coming up to me, and she was like, hey, so we're no longer with the social services in Wales. We've moved to Birmingham. So she gotten wind, or something had happened where he's maybe reported them, and they took him off our case and moved us back to the social services we were originally with. And I was like, in that moment, I remember thinking, I'm going to die here. Like, I'm either going to die here by my own account, their account, or like, I don't know. It felt like there was no way out at that point. I was like, okay, this is this life. But then one day I kind of snapped. I remember that a few days before she'd strangled me, and my brother came running down the stairs, and so did the foster father. And they both saw her with her hands on my neck. And it was as if everybody in the room was so used to it that it was like, stop complaining about Danielle. Like, just stop. Like, shut up. If you weren't so rude, if you didn't answer her back, she wouldn't do this to you. Do you understand? You're so annoying. And it was always like my brother telling me, you're just argumentative. It's your fault. You're doing this. And I just remember thinking, okay, he's against me. And that was my brother. Like, and we went through life together. Do you know what I mean? But they really put us against each other. And as an adult now, I find it easier to not blame him, because
he didn't know any better.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in his position. I mean, I can. They did it to me, and I tried very hard to not choose material things over him. But they would present things to him like, if you stick up for your sister, you're not going to get that Xbox for Christmas. And so he would go quiet. And they knew that, like, they did this thing where if I was in trouble, they loved him and he was getting everything in the world, and vice versa. But I'm not very materialistic. So when they would be nice to me and then horrible to my brother, I'd still be like, but he didn't do that. Like, why are you having a go at him? He didn't do that. And like I said, the most really he got was verbal abuse from them. Mm-hmm. But they were still vile. Like, he still was abused by them. But but he obviously was able to kind of go through that and join them, I guess, but not out of his own accord. And then one day I just snapped, and I was like, I'm really alone in this house. I had friends that knew I was being abused. Teachers knew, like, people knew. Like, it wasn't like I hadn't told anyone or tried to reach out. You know, like, I'd spent years trying to get help. I'd also kind of told everyone that I was told in life, if you tell these people, you'll get help. Mm-hmm. And they didn't help me. There was one teacher that very much helped me. She did help me, but separate story.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, there was absolutely no help. So then I remember one day just calling the police and just screaming on the phone, like, if you don't come and take me from these foster carers, I'm going to die. Like, I remember saying that, like, you have to take me. You cannot just turn up and leave me again, because the police used to turn up all the time. I used to call the police all the time, and they would either threaten to put me in prison or a cell. They'd be like, because apparently I was aggressive. So I would be like accused of being aggressive as a child and terrified to be in a cell. So then they would silence me. I'd have to go upstairs, and then they would have conversations with them, and they would leave. And it was like, because it didn't matter how many times I called the police. So I literally got to a point that when I made this phone call, I was literally like, I'm going to die. I need your help. I just remember things changed. And within days, social worker came and was like, you're moving to my Stig, which is a place in Wales that I'd never been to at all. It was very far from where I was going to school. Completely new place again. But it was weird because I remembered I had a friend in school that was in foster care. We didn't really know each other that well, but I knew of her. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I remembered, oh my God, she's in foster care in my Stig. And I was like, maybe I can call at her and reach out to her or something. And I rang her and I was like, I'm on my way to my Stig. I know we don't really speak, but like, I've just like moved foster carers. Can I see you? And her foster carer happened to be cousins with the foster care I was going to. Mm-hmm. And so when I got there, they were like, yeah, we can get her to come over. And she was like my saving grace at that point. Like, aww. I used to go to her house. She's an angel. I used to go to her house. She used to come to mine. She really made that transition like like something that wasn't like a breakdown for me, because I had a friend that understood and was like having the right conversations with me. And her mum was a foster carer, you know, so it's like, not her mum, but, you know, her foster mum at the time was a foster carer. So, and I would speak to her and she would say things and be understanding. And the foster carers that I had were really great to me. I was there at 16 at the time. They were really great. They treated me like family. My foster sister, she was pregnant when I got there. She ended up having the baby. I was so close with this child. Like, he was definitely my nephew. Like, I still would never refer to him as like her kid. You know, I would still refer to him as my nephew, even though they probably wouldn't want me to have that title. And yeah, so after 2 years, I turned 18, and like after the first year anniversary, like, so this is how much they involved me as their family. The first year of living with them, they surprised me. I didn't even know it was a year anniversary of moving in with them. Mm-hmm. And they surprised me with this like frame, and it had hearts, and it had all of our names. It had their names. It had my foster sister's name. She didn't foster her baby. She gave birth to him. Her baby's name. Uh-huh. Not everyone's in foster care. Yes, her child.
Okay.
And my name. And I was like, oh my God, I have a family again. And I started referring to them as my parents to people. I referred to my foster sister as my sister, who was my nephew, you know, and I felt happy. I felt seen. And like, I was in a really bad place when I'd moved from those carers, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I was like drinking a lot. Like, I was a small child and I was like drinking a ridiculous amount because I just didn't want to feel. I didn't want to feel anything. Yeah, I didn't want to feel anything. And they realized that they've got a 16-year-old here that's drunk all the time. Like, we need to help her. And they helped me. They helped me get sober. They helped me with self-harm. They helped me with my sexuality. They helped me in so many ways. Which is why it was the most shocking thing when I turned 18 and everything changed. Like, the foster dad, he didn't change. The foster sister didn't change, but the foster mum did. And it was weird because when I first moved in there, I had a partner at the time. And I remember saying to this partner, there's something about the foster mum, but I don't know what it is. And do you ever meet someone that's like really nice, but you're like, you're a bit too nice. Like, there's something fake about the niceness that's coming here. Do you know what I mean? Like, she was always lovely. She was always articulate in how kind she was. She was always sweet. She spoke very calmly in a very lovely tone. And in the world too, you know, in the way she spoke to people. But then you'd see little things like if her husband would be like this, she'd snap. Don't say like that. Don't say that. And you'd see moments. And I saw moments, but they very much kept it locked. Mm-hmm. They never had really arguments in front of me. Her conversations with her daughter weren't in front of me. They had a very strained relationship with their daughter. And honestly, if she hadn't had her baby, I don't know if they'd have been close during that period of time. But she had her baby and, you know, came back into the family. But she had her issues with her mum, and I understood some of them, but not all of them were really open to me. And then as kind of time went on, I kind of understood a lot more. But then, so I turned 18 and I felt the energy change with the foster mum, and I was very confused. And then it felt like she would just pick at me and she would say things to me, or she would leave me at home knowing I was at home and then go and have a meal with the whole family and not me. And then she'd post on Facebook, like, with my family at this place, like, nobody else, I'd rather be here. And then she'd come home and I'd be like, hey, what, you went for a meal. Why didn't you invite me? And she'd be like, oh, I didn't get money. And it's like, you didn't tell me, first and foremost. And secondly, if I didn't have money, like, you're paying for your other daughter. Like, you've gone for a meal. You couldn't have said, let's go at home somewhere. You couldn't have asked me if I wanted to come and just have a coffee. Like, you couldn't have asked at all. You had to post a status letting me know you were all there and like how you didn't need anybody else there. And these things just consistently started happening over the next like month or two. And then one day I remember my phone broke, and the new iPhone came out and she was offering it to the foster dad. And he was like, I don't need a new phone. I've got a phone. It's fine. And I was like trying to fix my phone, and they were refusing to help me because now I'm an adult. So I was like, okay, that's fine. But like, obviously I'm struggling. I'm working, and where I live is very far away from where I'd gone to school, now in college, and where I'm working. So I was like, I need money to get to work. and nobody had helped me, and I couldn't fix my phone, but she would be consistently trying to buy him a phone. And he was like, I don't need a phone. Can you not hear me? And then she surprised him with a phone. And when he opened it, he was annoyed. He was literally like, I didn't ask for this. I've told you 1,000 times, I don't need a phone. Why have you done this? And same thing with her daughter. She'd moved into a house with her son, bought her like a plasma TV for no reason, but I couldn't have £3 for a bus anymore. But yet months before, if my phone broke and it was my fault, I wouldn't even think to ask them, and they'd be offering to help. Mm-hmm. So it was like, what is happening? And then one day she just like snapped. The foster carer left to go to work, the foster dad, and she basically started telling me that I wasn't part of the family. I'm not her daughter. Like, I don't know why I think I'm part of this family. And was just like really spatting everything she could like say at me, knowing what I'd been through with the carers before, knowing the family I'd lost before that. And then also knowing how she treated me for those 2 years and how they'd made me a part of this family with their words and actions and everything else. And I was in the kitchen and she was in the living room. We were very, very separate. But I remember just shouting something. I can't remember what it was, but I obviously at this point I'd got riled. It'd been like 2 months of her really like digging and hurting at me. And now she's screaming this at me. And so I shouted something back. I still don't even remember what it is, but the foster dad must have forgotten something, and he'd come back in the house and he just came right up to me and pushed me against the wall and was like, you cannot even talk to her like that. You need to leave this house and all these things. Like, just completely missed what she'd done. And all of a sudden I was this villain. And it was very reminiscent of when I was with that previous carer and I was being told nothing was happening to me when it was, and being blamed. And I just remember in that moment being like, oh my God, she's got what she's wanted. And I didn't even respond to him. I don't even think I said anything. I think I just stood there. Or if I did, I would have been like, you didn't hear her. But I very much remember that moment being very like shocking. And then just like, I need to go to my room. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then about a day later, they served me this piece of paper that they had written on. And they told me that I had a month to find somewhere to live, or they were going to drop me off at a hostel. And I was 18. I was a kid in care. I have not been taught anything. A child. So I was like, okay. And couldn't find anything. And obviously my friends weren't going to take me in. They still live at home. Like, I had nowhere to go. My ex's mother was a homophobe, so I couldn't go to that person's house. And I just was stuck. And so the date came. And so they dropped me off at a hostel. The foster mum didn't come. It was her idea. She didn't come. And the foster father, he gave me a £5 note. I had no money, no food, but he gave me £5. And then we went upstairs to the room I was in. The foster sister was there too. The baby wasn't with her. And they went to hug me to leave. He began crying and she started saying to him, you can't do this to her. You can't leave her here. You can't do that. That's the one thing I remember the most, is her saying that to her dad. Like, you can't leave her. And he just apologized to me. And then they just left. And then I never saw them again.
So they leave you at 18 back in the foster system, foster house?
No, at a hostel.
Oh,
just a hostel for like homeless people. Yeah. Yeah, they dropped me off at a homeless hostel and then pew.
And they just disappear.
Yeah. I expected at least the foster sister to make an effort. And I tried to reach out a few times, and I told her that I was really upset because they didn't see me for months after. And so they ended up coming like 2 days later. And they gave me some letters. They saw how empty my fridge freezer was. They saw how depressing my life was, and they never came back again. And they blocked me on everything. And the foster sister I tried to make an effort with, and she just faded out. She messaged my ex trying to make out like I'd earned it, like I'd now done something to deserve it. And it was very bizarre because obviously at the day it's happened, she was saying, do not leave her here. And now all of a sudden it's been months and she's now, the foster father's got me blocked. The foster mother had me blocked first. She was the first person to block me. And then the foster daughter had me blocked. And it was like, how? And I went through some messages the other day. She actually recently unblocked me, and I only noticed from an old tag from when like something came up years ago of her son. Uh-huh. And usually her name wouldn't be able to be pressable because I'd been blocked for so many years, but it was pressable. And so I noticed she unblocked me, and I went onto our messages to just see like if I remembered things right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was practically begging to see her. And she was practically like, no. And I was literally saying things like, maybe I've not made an effort either, and I'm so sorry. And I'm like, looking back at my messages now, like actually feeling bad for myself. Like, you poor fucking thing. Like, you were abandoned and you're sat apologizing to her. Like, I'm sorry if I've not made an effort and I just want to see you. And messages where I'm like, hey, I'm in my stick. Can I please see you and your son? And just, oh no, he's in school. Okay. No. Bye. Okay. Like, very much like that. And I just like reread them and I was like, okay. So yeah, it pretty much ended that way.
So now, how did you end up modeling from that? Like, from being left on your own to like working for Louis Vuitton?
I know, that is bizarre. But I still don't really know. But the actual story is, so I was, before they'd dropped me off, I was in college and I was doing musical theatre. And I was still trying to do it after they dropped me off at the hostel. But obviously I was severely depressed, anxious, and I mean, malnourished at this point. I wasn't eating like or sleeping. I was quite literally a different skin color. I was gray. It was bad. When I remember going into college after months of not going, and my music teacher literally pulling me aside and being like, what has happened to you? Because I'd lost so much weight and I was gray. So I kind of didn't really go back. And then I had this friend in the class who was a dancer. Her name's Kate. And she, none of the class really liked me. They weren't very nice to me, and they found it very easy to shun me once I hadn't been coming, without asking me why I hadn't been coming. They just kind of, I came in and I was very much aware that I was shunned from this group. But she kind of said to me quite a lot, she'd be like, you need to model, like, you should model. Like, she would always be nice to me, even if her friends weren't. And she was like, you have to model, like, and because she was a dancer and like one of the sickest dancers I've ever seen, she would come to London and she'd perform or she'd do auditions, and she'd also model sometimes. And that meant she had friends that were actually signed. And so she was like, look, you have to model. I know that you'll be able to do it. She was like, she gave me my mother agent's handle, London Model Scout. And she was like, really? You have to follow her. Yeah. And so then months went and I did absolutely nothing. I dropped out of musical theatre because I couldn't afford to be in college and not eat. I literally had no money. So I had to get a job. And so I worked in a petrol station at nighttime, and I just did that for about a year.
Petrol station, like a gas station?
Yeah, like a gas station.
At nighttime?
At night. Yeah, and my shifts were like 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. And then I would have to walk 30 minutes to get a bus. And then my first bus, especially on Sundays, would be like at 10 or 11. So then I'd have to wait a few hours to get home. And then I'd get home at like 12. And then I'd try and sleep. I'd usually like call a friend or just catch in with somebody that day. And then fall asleep like 2, 3, get up at like 8, and then get ready and leave at 10 and start again, like just every single day. And then I'd get like 1 or 2 days off, and then I would go out and drink with my friends, and then I'd come back, and then I'd go through that same cycle. And then one day I kind of just got like ballsy. I don't know what it was. I think I was just really tired of my life, and I was like, right, what does this person do? Because I didn't understand modeling. I didn't know what a mother agent was. I didn't know what an agency was, and I didn't know like what was legit and what was required of me. So I went onto her Instagram and I just spammed her with likes. Like, I liked every single photo on her page. I probably didn't go on all the way, but I definitely liked like a substantial amount. And I was like, let me just see if she reacts to me. And I didn't have much on my feed at the time. It was like probably like my dog or like me and my friends, but blurry. Like, it wasn't, and I was never, obviously with modeling now, I post a lot of myself on my Instagram, but I was never really like full of selfies. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't really that kind of Instagram. So then she messaged me and then commented on my photo being like, hey, I've sent you a DM. Could you reply to it? And I was like, oh my God, wait, okay, what? And in that moment I panicked and I was like, this is not legit. She's not a real agency. I don't know what this is, but it's not legit. And then she messaged me and was like, hey, could you send me some Polaroids of your face with no makeup on? she was like, how tall are you? How old are you? Where do you live? Like all these things. And I answered them. And she was like, okay, great. Would you be able to send me a video, a bikini video, which is, as you and I know, a normal thing.
Yeah.
But if you're brand new, it's kind of terrifying to ask someone on the internet to send you a bikini video.
Yeah.
So when she asked me that, I was like, this isn't legit. This is a scam. She's trying to get a photo of me. Absolutely not. And so I didn't reply to her for months. And she would message me and be like, hey, Danielle, can we please get something in the diary next week? I'm in London on this day. And I would just ignore her. Yeah.
But
and
honestly,
then,
I don't blame you because I did the same thing to this scout that I was talking to. To this day, literally to this day, I have no idea if that scout was legit or not. But she asked me for like bikini, like I think video or photo, and I just never replied, like never.
Exactly. Like I feel like bikini photos you have to ask after you've met, or like when you get to the agency.
Yeah.
Because like that really scared me.
Yeah, no, like, it sounds like a red flag type of stuff, you know?
And now that I know her and I can hear the way she said it, I'm like, okay, I can hear how you said it. But now I didn't know her. So obviously it was different.
Yeah, you never know.
Exactly. But then I remember her messaging me being like, hey, I've got a shoot for, I don't know what brand it was, but it was like a legit brand. She was like, this is the amount of money. And it was more money than I'd ever seen. It's not model rate money, but it was more money than I'd ever seen for a day. So I was like, oh my God, I've been ignoring this woman. And literally she's legit and she's got me a job for this. What am I going to do? And so I replied, I don't know why I thought I was hot shit. I replied to her saying to her that somebody else was using my Instagram for me because I didn't have it on my phone and my phone was broke. I don't know what this excuse was, but I tried to make up because obviously I was using Instagram whilst I was ignoring her. So I was like, oh, my friend's been posting for me because my phone's broke, as if my Instagram was that important. You know what I mean? Like she has to post that photo of my dog. Like, you have no idea. Like it's hard, okay?
You were trying to make it seem like you didn't ignore her this entire time.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, yeah. So basically, my dog, and then she was like, okay. And it was kind of funny because the day that I'd messaged her, she messaged me back going, okay, I'm in London next week on this date. Are you free? Can you meet me? And it was the first week I'd gotten off of work, and I was like, wait, I'm free. And then I called my best friend, Liv, and I was like, okay, this lady has something to do with modeling. I don't know what she is. I don't know who she is, but she wants to meet me in London and she wants like something to do with modeling. My best friend was like, you're going. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going. It's not legit. She doesn't want me. It's a waste of a journey. I don't have the money. And at this point I had such little money that like going to London and back and it being a waste, I couldn't afford it. Do you know what I mean? It was literally like, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
So my best friend was like, I'm going to drive you. I don't care. I'm driving you to London and we're going to do this. And I was like, oh my God. And like, even to the night before I said to her, we don't have to drive. We can just have a sleepover. Like you don't have to take me there. And she's like, I'm taking you. Like we're going.
How much was the drive?
I don't know, but I think thinking about petrol from Wales to London, it was probably about £30 there and back. So £60.
No, sorry.
All in all.
The time. How long does it take?
I think it would. I feel like it would be the same. Like that. That's my understanding of how much petrol costs for that journey. But I don't know how much it would have cost at the time. But it would have been around that, like £60 maybe.
No, like how long is the drive? Like hours? Like is it like?
I'm like,
You're still thinking about your other job that you had, like.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was 2.5, 3 hours. So it's not awful. In the UK, that's a long journey.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, but it's still not long. Like it takes like 2 hours to get to Birmingham where my family live, and I don't mind doing that. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't find now, especially now as a model, that's not a long journey to me now. Yeah. Then it was a lot more. But yeah, so then we went, and I met Leah, and I was an idiot. I turned up in heels. When I turned up in heels at Joe and the Juice and met her with my best friend. And I know her now and I can see her look. And she was looking at me like, what is this girl doing? And then she was like, okay, like, are you interested? Like, I just want to let you know that living in Wales is probably not going to work out for modeling. Like, you should move to London. And I was like, okay. She took me outside and took some photos of me. And then she was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to send some things off to agencies and like go and enjoy your day. And then like, I'll let you know what goes on. And I was like, all right, cool. And me and Liv, obviously, weren't going to waste a day in London. We like never came to London. So we were like, let's eat some dinner, let's enjoy the place, and then we'll drive back later on. Mm-hmm. And so we were still in London. And then Leah rang me and she was like, can you stay in London tonight? And I was like, my eldest sister lives in London, but I never would like usually ask her to stay. So I was like, let me check. I can ask my older sister. And she was like, because I've sent your Polaroids to agencies and like all of the ones that have responded want to meet you. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what is going on? And so I asked my sister and she was like, of course you can. She was like, what do you mean? Why are you asking like that? Like, of course you can stay. Uh-huh. Her roommates were really, really sweet. All of them let me have the living room. And I stayed for a few nights. And the next day I went and I met, I think, like 5 agencies. And it's really bizarre when I say this, but all of them said yes. I hate saying that because I feel like that's such a dickhead thing to say.
No, but it's like, I mean, that's amazing though.
Yeah.
But it is very rare. Especially with your
time
on top of like everything, like it's rare because of your height as well.
Yeah,
you were not 5'9", 5'10", 5'11".
Nope. And she said that when she met me, you know, she was like, your height might be a little bit this. And I remember us like going into like the squad, and the squad are kind of like known for having girls that are shorter as well as other girls, and her saying that to me, we're going in there and being like, I've got a model that's this height, which was like obviously a shorter height, and was like, she signed here. So like, don't stress, but it might be an issue. Like, I do remember that. But yeah, crazily enough, everyone was happy. And I was able to pick an agency, which was bizarre for someone that didn't even know who she was. You know what I mean? I was like, how am I supposed to pick an agency to represent me when I don't even know what modeling means?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so confused.
You had no idea.
But I went with my feelings. And the one thing I will say, what helped me make a decision was every time I went into an agency and I saw big offices, I didn't like the idea of like hundreds of people representing me that never met me. That scared me. Okay. And I didn't want to go in because I was on my own as well. Like, you have to think that like anytime I'm now going to go into this agency, it's going to be just me. I don't have anybody in London. Obviously my eldest sister's here, but she has a life, a job, all these things. Like, I don't actually know anybody in London. So it's going to be me going forward. So it's like, I needed to be able to go into a room and get to know a few people and then go from there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you went for like the smaller agency.
The agency was actually a very big agency, but the amount of people in the office was smaller. There were 6 people in the office, which is very rare. And I really liked that. And I loved the people there. They were amazing people too. And that was the right decision as well at the time. And so, so then that kind of kicked off. And then all of a sudden I was in different countries and traveling and working jobs, and people like, literally, I was so confused when I first started modeling that I was on set in Barcelona running through a field, and they started filming me on their phones, and I loudly said, are you filming me on your phone? Rather than letting them take the BTS because I didn't understand. I didn't realize like we're going to film all day. It might be on a phone, it might be on a camera, it might be on this, but like the content will be being taken all day. I didn't grasp that concept at the time. And there's a video out there on a brand. I won't say in case she wouldn't want me to say that I was saying that in there. But there's a video where you can literally hear me go, oh, are you? And then stopping myself, and then the rest of us running through the field. You can hear it.
Because you were like so confused. You were like, I have no idea. What am I doing? But these brands are paying me like good money and flying me to like different countries and like.
So I'm gonna try, but I didn't know what I was doing. And like my best friend that the first friend I ever met, Nicole, one of my best friends, she was I met her when I was in Barcelona, and she was, now I know how long she's been modeling, how great she was. I had no idea anybody at the time. So I didn't know what she'd modeled, what she'd done before. I just remember being so impressed with her because we were there in the Barcelona heat and I couldn't open my eyes. And she was just there like, you know what I mean? Like shooting. And I was there and they were like, Danielle, you close your eyes. So the photos, she's like got her eyes open and I'm the one that's like, like even in the photos now, like it's so funny looking back at them and being like, I couldn't open my eyes in the sun. Like, just things like that, which obviously now I can do that. Now I can open my eyes in the sun and I can take a photo, even if it's sunny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bizarre world.
So now that like, you started modeling and like you built your career and everything, like, can you like share some of the challenges you face as a model? Like, has it height been or like money or, you know, like.
I mean, height has definitely made a difference in like high fashion. Like I wanted to do runway for a really long time and it was my height that was stopping me. It was like my measurements were fine. My look's fine. Mm-hmm. My height was like, if the person didn't fall in love with me there and then, they weren't going to look past my height. Do you know what I mean? So that has been very difficult, which is why Louis Vuitton was a huge shock for me. But now I obviously want to kind of pursue runway more. I love runway, but for a while I stayed away from it because I was a bit like, I don't know if they're going to like me, but I still tried to do high fashion other ways. But so that was a struggle, but there was also like money was a struggle, like something. And I said this, I met this girl that signed once and I was like, do me a favor. I said, it doesn't matter what you book. I said, do not quit your job until money gets into your bank account. And I remember her being like, wait, what do you mean? And I remember thinking, oh my God, models still don't know this, because what models don't realize is it can take 3 months minimum to get paid for a job. So if you're a brand new model living in a brand new city and you're paying bills you've never paid for that are like, you know, London prices are very different to Welsh prices. Yeah. You know, like you're paying triple the rent. You're paying more because you're in a model apartment and you've got no idea what you're doing. You're paying for clothes and heels and flights. And like, if you're doing runway, like people don't realize like fashion models aren't being flown out to places unless they've been booked before they get there. Most models go to London and hopefully, you know, go to castings and hope they're going to book a show, or go to Paris and hope they're going to book a show. So they're paying for their flights and their accommodations. Unless you're doing a shoot, the brand isn't going to pay for you. Like there's no brand if you've not been hired yet. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you go out there for work, so you pay for it yourself. And then obviously, what I'm trying to say is if you're booked for a shoot, the client obviously will pay for your flight and your hotel, but runway is different. So my first year of modeling, I was paying for all of these things, having no idea how much it should cost and how much I was paying versus what it was meant to cost, spending like £800 on All Saints jackets because my agency was telling me that I needed to have this look when I was in Paris, whilst a week before I'm crying to them not being able to pay my rent. But now I'm having to buy an All Saints jacket, you know, like for a casting. And it was like, then I'm being told like, Danielle, where's the pocket money we gave you, which is like £100 a week, or maybe if I can go in and get another £100, like £200 a week. And I'm like in a new place, not used to the prices. And I'm being told I'm not good with money. And I'm like, you haven't given me my money to be good with. But I was being told I wasn't good with it. And I wasn't sure if it was the clients and I wasn't sure it was the agency. And the agency were telling me that the clients hadn't been paying for a long time. So it was very much like, I just had to learn the hard way that clients take a very long time to pay sometimes, and you will wait for a 3-month minimum. And so during that year, I was seeing emails like, this is the amount of money you're making. And I was living the year with £100 cash a week, and like not by the end of the week struggling to eat, you know what I mean? And crying because I can't pay rent, and crying because I can't go and see my family. Because imagine I like get £100 and then I need to spend like £40 just to go and visit my family. And that's like almost 50% gone. And then what happens when I get out there and get trains from there, or when I get back here and I've got to use transport? And like, I'm doing castings 24/7. So I'm also spending about £15 a day on castings, point blank. So it's like, this money was not enough regardless. But I'm then making myself feel like I'm awful with money and stressing myself out. And like the financial stress that I went through whilst in my first year of modeling, and I was doing well. You were booking a lot of work. Yeah.
But like, you were just not getting paid, you know, like soon enough.
Yes. So then, so I went, you know, it was really bad. And I actually got to a point where I was like, I need to be in charge of my own finances. And obviously I had been moved by the agency from Wales to London. They had said that they were going to help me with rent and stuff, and obviously that they will then take that money out of my work, which is a very nice thing for them to do. but it also put me in rears, and it put me in a situation that I probably, if I'd known and thought about it, wouldn't have wanted to put myself in to begin with. I might have given myself a few more months before I moved, but I moved within about 3 weeks. So I knew nothing, and this is what I was thrown into. So I ended up taking a year off of modeling so I could get my feet in the ground in London, like get to know the place, because I still didn't know London. I was doing castings every single place in London. I'd literally seen all of London at this point, but I didn't know it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, right, I need to get to know London, and I also need to get in charge of my own finances. And so I took a year off, and I started working in a cafe, and I started paying off my debts, and I started sorting out everything, my rent. I started putting money away. I was obviously earning way less, but it's consistent income. So I was, I did everything that was struggling with financially that way. And then when I came back to modeling, I made sure I had rent and my necessities being paid for from me. And the money from modeling was a bonus. Yeah. And then after about after about 4 or 5 months, I was like, okay, I can stop now because I've given myself some time. And if I need to go back to go to a cafe, I will. But then I ended up figuring my finances out, because guess what? I'm not awful with money. When I know where it's coming, I can put it away and use it, you know?
Like that's so hard. I mean, because if you're only expecting money from modeling, but that money's going to come who knows when.
Yeah.
How are you going to pay your rent, your bills, food and stuff? That's wow. But that's that goes to show that modeling is not it's not like you can sign and then you're living the big life and that's
famous and rich.
Even if you're booking a lot of work, it's not even like that. You still
work doesn't equivalent to money. And this is one thing I would love to say, from perspective that you have an audience that's a lot of probably short models that are aspiring. One thing I'd love to say to short models is, you guys, if you believe in yourselves and you get signed, you will make more money than runway models, because you just need to have the look. Because if you do beauty or you do jewelry or you do commercials or whatever it is, the money is actually in there. So then when so you might not need height, you might just need your face, or you might need sports model, whatever it is. If you're in that category and you fit into that category, you've now picked a place. You can now focus on booking those jobs and you can make consistent money. Whereas with runway, you don't get paid for shows. And if you do, it's not very much money. Mm-hmm. And realistically, you need to be like a big model or booked on every show for it to pay off. And then, but you want runway to give you exposure and you want that to translate to work, but you have to put that time and effort in. And editorials are free. Magazines, there are some magazines that pay you. People would be shocked to know that the biggest magazines
don't pay.
They don't pay.
Yeah.
They'll pay Kendall Jenner.
Yeah.
They'll put her on the cover and they'll pay her.
But if you're just a random model, it's I think Coco Russia said it's $100 and $150 for a Vogue cover. I did
Vogue, and the one time I got paid for Vogue, I think it was £30.
£30 to be on Vogue.
I think it was something like that, yeah. Or something, or £42 for the other one. It was that round. I remember looking at it and being like, wow, if only people realized what goes,
and that's
what I
the
mean?
thing that I want people to know. And that's why I have all this models from different areas, what they do and stuff. Because
it's really important.
Because for us, shorter models, a lot of us struggle with oh, I really want to be a fashion model. And when they realize that they can't be, or it's going to be super hard to be, they get really disappointed that they're going to end up being a commercial model, as in a commercial model is a bad thing. But
it's not a bad thing. And realistically, the commercial model has a longer longevity in the career, because you're not going to burn out as quick. You're making money and putting time in and booking jobs and seeing it go up. But if you're not able to afford to keep putting time in for runway or high fashion, you have no choice but to leave your career. There are girls who just go back to uni or just start completely new endeavors because they just give up. And you see these girls thinking, I really want to be in your position. And you're like you just said, actually, there is absolutely nothing wrong with everything else. High fashion's great. I want to be a high fashion model. I love high fashion.
Same.
But I have friends in so many realms of modeling. You are in a different realm modeling, absolutely killing it. And it's incredible. And it's so good. Do you know what I mean? It's like you post things and I am like, this is incredible. And then I'll post something and then you'll say the same. You know what I mean? It's like, we are both doing pretty good for ourselves. We're just doing different types of modeling. Yeah. And it's okay.
Exactly.
It's absolutely fine.
It's totally fine. Yeah. And I love that you're sharing that, because it's just like, it's so hard to like explain to like models who have this idea of like modeling, like it's just runway, high fashion tutorials. And when you're like, actually like, think about commercial, and they get very disappointed, but it's just like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, there's so much money. There's so much money. There's so much money. And there's even models who have the height and the size and everything to be a runway model, and they choose to be a commercial model because they want to make more money. Literally. Exactly. Like, they don't care about, the glamour and like the famous and all that stuff that goes with runway. They will rather do commercial than runway because of the money. So. And
a lot of people don't realize, like, their favorite models, or like their runway models, like, they've been modeling for like probably like 8 years and not noticed. Mm-hmm. And they've also probably like done jobs that you just haven't seen for money so that they can continue doing this.
Yes.
Like, there are so many jobs that models do that they don't tell people they're doing just to make money so they can do things for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, you think that her life is glitz and glam and she's just walking on the runway, and it's like, she's also spent the last however many years putting in time and effort. She's just a completely different realm of it. And it's harder for her money-wise. Whereas for you, it's harder for you size-wise. And it's like, the time that you're putting in to go, hey, I'm just short, but like, I'm good at this. Can you at least look at me? Mm-hmm. The time you're putting in that effort is the same amount of effort and time of high fashion models putting in the loss of money. Mm-hmm. You have something against yourselves. You know what I mean? You're both good enough, but there's something that both of you are struggling with. It's like, people just need to not compare. People don't realize it's not all glitz and glam. Like, come on, think about it. Victoria's Secret ended. All of those models have talked about how crap it was, and the diets they had to go through, and how awful it was, and the pervs behind the stage. Like, stop thinking everything's easy because you see them on the runway.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No,
it's not it.
That's what I eventually learned from hearing these models like open up about their like behind the scenes stories. I'm like shocked. I'm like, oh my God, like, I was comparing so much my life to them, wishing my life was them, and they were suffering.
Yeah.
Even though they had, the fame and like the glamour and the runway shows, they were suffering. Like, so you can't do that, like, I am living a great life. I can't compare to like someone else because I don't know,
exactly.
So, like, going off, like, like us, like petite models, short models, we struggle with getting like signed and like taken seriously and things like that. I think another thing that I really want to talk about with you is the part of like, you cannot take rejection personally. And I feel like you have some really good stories that kind of can be enlightening to like people that don't know. Cause like, when you get rejected, you don't know. You're like, you immediately think like, I'm not good enough. I'm not tall enough. Because I'm not skinny enough.
They didn't like me.
It's because my nose or like my eyes or like my ears or my hair, like whatever your insecurities, you're going to put on yourself. And in reality, it's not true. Something so random.
It's so random. And I think being in this industry, you learn so much. And so I'm very like, the way I am as a person is I'm so grateful for this job. And like I said, I want to do so many rounds of it. And I'm so thankful I can do that. And so when I'm on set, I like to get to know people. I like to make connections. I don't want to just go to work, be false, leave, or go to work, do the job, leave. I want to like have a nice day. I want to look back at this and be grateful. So I always make conversations with people. And by doing that, I kind of get to know like the casting processes, or like what they were looking for in that model that day, or why this model didn't work out. And I have literally been on a shoot once and I started making conversation with the stylist. And then I saw a bunch of com cards in the corner. And for people who don't know, com cards are the cards you like take to castings, and it's got your face and your name and your height and all that on it. And it's like a thing of com cards with different models. And these are amazing agencies as well. And these models were beautiful. And I was like, and then I saw her turn around and she was like, yeah, we're gonna have to do another casting. And so me being nosy me, I was like, why do you have to do another casting? I said, what do you mean? Look at these models. And they were like, well, they don't have piercings up here. Like, we need to do piercings here. And I remember being like, that's how little it can be. And they were like, we're a jewelry company. We want our earrings in the photos. Of course you have to have it. And it was like,
mind blowing.
Mind blown. And they said to me, like, Dan, if you got more piercings, jewelry companies would snatch you up. And I was like, okay, noted. Now I'm getting more piercings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's that small sometimes. It's sometimes that small. And one thing I've come to realize, and I really hope that girls who put a lot of pressure on themselves and their looks, and I know we're models, so it sounds stupid to say don't focus so hard on your looks, but like, seriously, don't, because firstly, you are good enough. And secondly, like, when someone's casting for a job, without sounding like an asshole, the last picture of that puzzle is the model. They start with a concept for their brand. They are trying to promote a brand. So they want to get either their clothes, jewelry, makeup. Let's say we're doing makeup. They want to do makeup. Say they've got 5 shades of lipstick. They've got eyeshadow, this and that. So they're like, okay, these are the looks we're going to do. So now they find the makeup artist. These are the looks we're going to do. Because again, it's about the makeup. Now we've hired this place. It's winter. We want it to be a bit more snug. We want it to be like this. We need a really tall girl to walk down a hallway. Or we need a girl with really long, dark brown hair, because I think we're going to just straighten it and do it like this. And I want to see it flick in the wind. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they're thinking. So then when they do the process, they've put that all together. Now they need a girl that fits that. They don't need a pretty girl with the perfect nose and the perfect hair and the perfect skin. They need the girl in that story. You might not be it. Yeah. It's okay. It's really okay, because you might be the girl in the next story or in the story in 2 years. Yes. And it's absolutely okay. And people, there's a thing with patience in this industry, and maybe you have felt it, but I know that like patience makes a difference. Like, I literally shot with a photographer for an hour in a park, a test shoot 1 year. And then like a year and a half later booked Vogue, because that photographer was shooting the Vogue and remembered me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if I'd have spent that year being like, I'm not good enough, or I'd given up, or been like, nothing happens, I wouldn't have even known that I'd missed Vogue. Yeah. I wouldn't have known it. Yeah. Yeah. And all of these things. Yeah. That's what
I tell people when they ask me, like, how are you, like, you know, so confident and things like that? Like, how do you work through your insecurities? And I tell them, like, literally, like, this is like my saying, like, my goals don't care about my insecurities. Like, I was literally like crying over my body because I had gained weight. I was so sad. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I literally, like, I did photo shoots and I felt like I didn't deserve to be photographed because I thought of how bad I look. But despite of like all these insecurities, these horrible like thoughts that I had in my head, I still did the photo shoots. I still submitted to agencies. I still work on social media. Like, I still put myself out there. And if I hadn't done that during that time that I felt horrible, I wouldn't be here right now, living in New York, being a full-time model, like, shooting all these campaigns. but that's the thing, you know, like, yes, like, I'm sorry you're so insecure about your height or your like size or whatever, but you cannot hold that against you. No, you cannot.
And like, it doesn't. And like, the rest of the industry isn't. So, you know, and one thing I will say, one thing that modeling has taught me is you are one of many. And I mean, my life taught me that. I'm one of 9. So I always knew I was one of many. I was in foster care. I was a statistic to a lot of people. I've known I'm one of many, but modeling solidified that for me. Like, you don't do the job, someone else will. So like, enjoy it. Enjoy the moments, because one day you're going to want to tell your grandkids, do you know when I did this magazine? Or do you know when I did this shoot? Or I was in a commercial one day. Like, look at this. Like, all of these cool things that you're going to look back and be like, I really wish I just enjoyed that moment. And actually, if you take the weight off of it and just go, I'm either going to do it or I'm not. At the end of the day, I'm going to either find something else I love or this is going to be it. That's literally the only way it's going to go. That's how life works. You either find it in what you're doing now, or it presents itself to you while you're doing that. Like, it isn't the worst thing to just stop focusing on your looks so much and just feel it and feel confident in yourself. Try and be secure in yourself. It sounds so hard to say because it took me so long.
Yeah.
And you really sometimes do have to really learn that lesson. And like how you just said, you know, like I really suffered with body dysmorphia. And I remember looking at myself at one time and being like, my legs are like tree trunks. And I look at that photo and I'm like, I was tiny. You know what I mean?
You thought you were big.
I thought I was huge, like not even like a little bit bigger. I thought I was huge. I thought I was unbookable. I thought nobody would want to shoot me. I thought I was ugly. And it's insanity because the year before I'm signed at a great agency. So why now a year later am I feeling awful? Because industries and agents are saying things and girls are booking jobs and you're not working for a month and now you're stressed. And actually all of that needs to stop. And you just have to be like, but I'm here for a reason. There's clearly a reason you're here. Everybody is bookable. There is a job for everyone. We don't need to fight each other for jobs. We don't need to be mad that other girls are getting jobs. Like, be happy for everyone's opportunities, especially your friends, because you're going to have your own. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. Like, we're all going to live lives of beauty if we just allow it to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Beautiful. Yes, 100% agree. Yeah. So I like how like all of my other questions I was going to ask you, they all like came together.
Did they?
They all came together.
Smashed it.
Yeah. So like, I think like this is like a great like podcast episode. And I think I feel like the rejection part is a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, all of your story, like all of the questions and stuff, but I feel like because the rejection is so hard.
Yeah.
But you need to remember that it's like, it can literally be like they have 50 girls in the casting and what they were looking for is that one girl who had like a freckle exactly on this part because they were trying to shoot something and you just didn't have that one freckle. That's literally it. Like, it's not like you're pretty enough, you're tall enough, like your hair, like nothing. It's like that one, like freckle or like a little like definition in your teeth that's slightly different. I don't know. It's just like so random. But
yes, 100%. And it's like the amount of times I used to think that of myself and I thought I'm not bookable, this and that. And then I've gone to a shoot and the photographer's been like, I've been waiting to work with you. And I'm like, holy shit, wait, there are people who like me. And in that time where I'm sat there being like, I'm not bookable, you don't realize the conversations that are happening without your knowledge. As a model, you've put yourself out there, maybe on Instagram, maybe with agencies, maybe with submissions, whatever you've done. You've put yourself out there. The world is now getting that. They're receiving it. So you might not be talking about it anymore. You might have done it last week. People are. So there are jobs that you're booking without even knowing. There are conversations going on and you have no idea. And they might start today and the shoot might be in 8 months. Like, you don't know. So just like have faith in yourself. Like, believe in yourself. Like, if you're in the industry, first and foremost, you're good enough. And if you're trying to get into the industry, like, surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who care about you, who would never push you to something that was not for you. And as long as you're around people that are like 100%, this is for you, you should do this, then pursue it and just feel good in yourself and don't let anything change that. Like, size, measurements, like, come on, we can see that change is happening. We can see that like girls are being loved in all shapes and sizes, and it might be being a slow process. I'm not saying it's done.
Exactly.
But I am saying it's happening.
Exactly.
So people, like, it might be you next. You know what I mean? Like, just enjoy the moment and just try and take it in and just work hard.
Yes. Because future you, if you start today, you try hard today, future you is going to be so grateful for you now.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
So.
Oh man. Younger me knew.
Yeah, no. So I think this is a great way to end this episode. Thank you so much, Danielle, for being here and available and sharing your amazing story with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here and you're very sweet for having me. me. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the podcast, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.